fellow men, common life with the brothers that we have in the servants of the word is a tremendous blessing, but not all the time. I mean, sometimes there are challenges to it. Sometimes I experience the frustrations of just living with a crowd of other people. But one of the things I do experience even in that is my own character is challenged, and there are growing opportunities for me as well. So even in the challenges, there are blessings.
I would say one would be submission, because I don't find it easy to let my plans and ambitions or ideas, just let them go. So somebody else basically is in charge of my life.
I'd say there were different costs, different challenges at different times that became more or less prominent depending on the time. I'd say on the front end for me, celibacy, living single for the Lord, that was the biggest challenge, no question. I found that frightening. I found it a very desolate, lonely, desert-like prospect. Obviously that changed over the years, otherwise I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
I think probably the biggest one was actually making the decision in the first place. Some people have the experience that it's very clear to them. They just know this is what they want to do with their life. But for me, it was a much more 50-50 kind of decision. And it wasn't 100% obvious. I could see the pros and I could see the cons. And I had to make a decision about it. And I experienced the Lord in the final say, actually saying, you choose. Whatever you choose, I will bless. If you choose for this as an expression of your love for me, I'll bless you in that. And that was actually a challenge. Once I made the decision, I experienced the Lord coming in behind my decision and really blessing it.
But again, at the same time, I would say that this is one of the things that God is calling us to as a brotherhood, which is I would see it as a great call again to put my life in God's hands. In the end, it's in God's hand.
More an ongoing one would be just, well, you have given up some very good things. And so when I see some of my contemporaries married with families, you sometimes say, well, that'd be great to have that. And yet, of course, in reality, I don't know. But there's always a temptation, at least, to think it's a pity to have given that up. And yet I made all those decisions very consciously. And I know that, I gave something up. Marriage was something I gave up. Family was something I gave up for something much better, or at least in the Lord's offering. He gave me a choice. He gave me an opportunity to choose for something which maybe for me was better. Not for everyone, of course, but for me was better. And I definitely experienced that in my relationship with Him.
When I went through formation and training, I'd say the biggest cost that presented itself to me at that time was the cost of leaving my country, leaving my family, my culture, and living without the knowledge or guarantee that I could enjoy any one of these again in the future in a substantial way, or at least be close to them.
The second challenge for me would be leaving my country, my family, my community, my friends there, especially that in Lebanon there is more focus on relationships, there's more focus on family life, extended family life, which is different in other countries, and other people there might find it hard also for me to leave.
I'd say the biggest challenge is compromising on the fundamental ideal of our life in subtle ways, different ways, settling for less. When we make our lifelong commitment, we make a promise, I made a promise to knowing and loving God as fully as possible. Consecrating my life to knowing and loving God as fully as possible. And I would say the temptation over time is to compromise that, to settle for something less, something more reasonable, something that stretches less, in a certain way to settle down or coast a bit. For me, that's the single biggest challenge.